Welcome to the GreenPilled Network podcast. If you're just joining us, we're building a coordination, a network society of thousands of hackers, dreamers, and doers using crypto to bring positive sum digital systems to the world. This podcast features the people who are doing it, and we publish a season of 5 to 10 episodes every couple months. This season is about how to DAO. I am releasing a book with my co-author, Puncar, who is also a DAO native person, and we are really excited about helping people find prosperity and to help them thrive in the frontier. For time immemorial, people have gone to the frontier in order to find new prosperity, new opportunities, and our generation's frontier is the internet. We want to teach people about the future of DAOs, the future of internet coordination, and this season of How to DAO is all about how do we do that? How do we DAO? How do we find more prosperity in the internet frontier? And this season of 5 to 10 episodes is going to be about how to DAO. The next voices that you'll hear will be myself or my guest co-host Punkar talking about how to DAO. Hope you enjoy this season. See you. Peace. Hey, Punkar, what's up?
Hey, not much, Kevin. Just, reading a book here.
What book is that you're reading?
It's How to DAO. I got some preliminary copies. It's actually not on the shelves, but you can pre-order it if you want.
Sounds like alpha.
Yeah. And
So
there are
for the
some good
audience,
deals out there.
we're being coy. Punkar and I wrote a book entitled How to DAO, Mastering the Future of Internet Coordination. And this episode is about that book, but it's also about season of Greenpill that we're about to run together where we talk about how to DAO. One part education about how to DAO and one part promotional for the book, which releases on January 21st. And maybe the way to start for the Greenpill audience, Punkar, is getting a quick intro on you, your background, and then also how we got to be writing this book together. I think it's been 2 or 3 years of work. So, let's hear your intro and how we got to work on this together.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. And, it was fun working with you on this project. And also, before the book, actually, we worked together at Gitcoin. So that's how we met. And before I got into Gitcoin and DAOs, I was working at the EY blockchain team, so more like enterprise blockchain solutions and financial services. And before that, I was working at a small business with my father. And I always admired, small, medium businesses. And that's probably what led me, over time, back, to small, medium businesses from, the enterprise. And now I feel like DAOs are the way to go. And I'm here to support the movement and hopefully the adoption of DAOs. And what about you, actually, Kevin? So I would love to hear how you got into DAOs. Maybe even before we start writing the book, or I got into DAOs. I believe you already been in the DAOs. So what was your
Yeah.
first kind of interaction with DAOs?
This is going to be a fun season because we're going to be co-hosting together. But when the episode is just both of us, I'm like, wait, am I the host or I'm the guest? Well, the answer is both. You have to move beyond the duality. I mean, I guess the audience mostly knows me as one of the co-founders of Gitcoin, and I've been very happy with the trajectory of that project over the last 7 or 8 years. Our mission is to fund what matters. We believe that open source software and other public goods are fundamental to the functioning of the world economy. And we want to make sure that the people who are working on that are funded. And it's kind of all about capital allocation and how do we allocate capital in an on-chain world. But, when we started in 2017, all I knew was that I was really good at funding software developers and really good at building communities of software developers. I'm a software developer myself. And so Gitcoin started off as just being a place where open source software developers could get coin in exchange for working on open source software. And over the years, we evolved from the primary mechanism behind Gitcoin being bounties, which is just like if you do X, you will get Y coins, Gitcoin. Then we launched a hackathon business and a bunch of other stuff, and eventually landed on Gitcoin grants, which is, funny because that's what we're now known for is Gitcoin grants in the community. And it was just a whirlwind from 2019 to 2020 to 2021 to go from kind of like a project that was a little bit unknown. I mean, we were funded by consensus, but wasn't like a household name. And then when Gitcoin grants really started to take off, we just grew a lot, and I think gained a lot of legitimacy to the community because we're funding so many software developers in the Ethereum community. And one of the things that I realized during that journey was that when you're funding public goods, people want a credibly neutral base layer for doing that. They don't want to have to worry that the CEO of some centralized software company is in the back shadow banning people or routing the capital to to people that are their friends or in a way from their enemies. I mean, these are all, sort of like toy examples. And of course, I would never do that, but you have to trust me that I would never do that. And so, learning about how credible neutrality is important for the base layer of a system that does capital allocation, I really felt like Gitcoin as a company was not the right positioning, which is like actually really hard. If you ever worked on something for 3 or 4 years and you realize it's wrong after that, like your sunk cost bias is fucking getting you. And until then, like DAOs had always been sort of like a toy thing to me. Like Vitalik and Dan Larimer wrote about DAOs in 2014 and 2015, and now we have programmable money. We're going to be able to build programmable organizations. It was all very theoretical for me until the DAO launched in 2016? I think it was 2016. But then like the DAO launched, and then it was like a rocket that like had a rapid unscheduled disassembly. Like it was like, oh, this went from theory to practice, but it imploded. So like that's not something you want to build your business on. But for me, a real inflection point with DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations that resemble more of a network than an actual traditional organization, like resemble more of a mycelium network than like an animal, networks over hierarchies. DAOs were just theoretical for me until I saw Moloch DAO launch. So Amin Soleimani, if you're listening to this, you're the GOAT. Thanks for reviving DAOs for everyone after the DAO nuclear winter. And when Moloch DAO started taking off, and I started to see a lot of my friends tokenize and DAOize their projects, Yearn Finance was a big one for me, Compound, Uniswap. I was like, oh, like maybe the future of Gitcoin, if we want it to be credibly neutral and democratically governed, should be a DAO. And so in 2021, we did some work to make Gitcoin grants into a DAO, and that achieved credible neutrality, democracy, opened up its stewardship to lots of other people. And the process hasn't been perfect since then, but it's been a learning journey of like learning about the theory a priori of why DAOs should work, and then empirically actually fucking around and finding out and doing it for me. And since then I've been involved in many DAO launches, and once you get pulled down the rabbit hole, it just becomes like it's like breathing air or drinking water. It's like, oh, let's create a multi-sig for X, Y, or Z, and then it becomes like something that becomes muscle memory for you. So yeah, that's been my journey with Gitcoin and relating to DAOs. And I think that what's cool is that it's I'll segue this back to asking you a question, is like what's cool is all of the amazing, like DAO has acted as an attractor, like a psychological like attractor just means like where people go without needing to be told to go to. Like Gitcoin became an attractor for cool new people in my life once it became a DAO, and I invited other people to the dance. And that's how you and I met. I think that we worked together for a little bit at Gitcoin in, what was it, 2021 or 2022? And you've been DAO curious insofar as you worked at Gitcoin for a bit, but you also did some stuff with Bankless and other DAOs. I'd be curious if you take us through your journey of working in DAOs during that part of the cycle.
Yeah, happy to do so. And like, if you want full journey of Gitcoin and Kevin's into DAOs, you can pre-order the How to DAO book at howtodao.xyz. Okay.
That's how
Uh,
to like TO, not to how to DAO.xyz pre-orders, and they'll be delivered January 21st. Please pre-order the book because that will help us climb the bestsellers list and tell more people about DAOs. But yes, Punkar, tell us about your journey with DAOs.
well, I work in blockchain, but I like enterprise blockchain. I didn't feel it. And then when I was just like, you know, exploring crypto projects and on the side and stuff, I was like, this like DAO thing feels cool. Like you contribute and you kind of get ownership and like say into like what the DAO should be doing. And as you are more involved, like you get more kind of power. So it's very democratic. And I like that approach, but I was like, I don't actually know, much about it. And I'm the type of the guy who is like, I get excited about things, but I don't like to do research, like the theoretical research, but I like to do the practical research, like jump in, try it out, if it works, how it works, and like learn on the go, basically. And that's how I jumped into, Bankless DAO. I think, the first DAO I joined. Now they are called actually Black Flag DAO. So they rebranded and the community changed a little bit, but still, very cool people, very mission driven people there. And we started some projects through Bankless DAO. funded through the treasury, and with other people I just met at the Discord. So you just met online and you start new business together. Kind of cool. And then I also jump into Gitcoin. I knew about Gitcoin before because I worked on open source software projects before, and the funding of that, it's like just hard. So I knew Gitcoin is trying to like improve that. So I was like, it's aligned with my mission. Let's jump in, see what I can do, how I can help. And I start helping, and eventually I got paid for it. And then I become like a core contributor for almost 2 years there, which was super cool experience there. But what I realized is like I would love more people to join me on this journey into DAOs. So how I can like attract them and like help them to actually join me on this DAO journey. And we brainstorm a little bit with other people around, and we were like, book is the right path towards probably. You can, read it over the weekend or over the holidays. You get really excited. You get some like knowledge through it, so it helps you like do the first step, and then other people can guide you through. You just need to find the right DAO, right community, and so on. So that's how my journey in DAOs and the book actually started, and I had fun doing it and participating in DAOs. It's not always blue sky, and it's not always like every month paycheck. Sometimes it's better, sometimes it's worse as the market goes, but it's just the people around you, like it's very supportive, I feel. So I had good time. I would be like interested. So my experience is more from like core contributor or hoping some early projects as well. But Kevin, you basically like you started a big DAO. Like, what was some of your learnings when like you actually turn Gitcoin into DAO, and now like how you govern that? Like DAO doesn't have CEO. I don't have CEO, so like it's not like top down that much. Like you have all the token holders. Like, how was the experience for you coming from like the guy who is deciding everything to DAO?
I mean, I like to think I wasn't deciding everything, but companies not worth spending too much time on Gitcoin Holdings, which was the name of the entity that we had before the DAO. But like before I actually answer that question at the object level, I just want to provide some meta level framing about this, and that's that. There's this quote from the Tao Te Ching, which is this ancient Asian text that goes something like, "The Tao that can be named is not the eternal Tao. The way that can be vocalized is not the eternal way." And I think that that was about the philosophy of life and how to interact with the natural world. But I actually think that like that's very true with DAOs as well, which is that until you're really experiencing them, it's really hard. The DAO Te Ching also applies to actually Web3 DAOs in that you have to empirically experience them before you can really understand the way. So it's we can talk about them till the cows come home, but like to actually experience it, that's how you sort of get inducted into DAOs. And my recommendation to people is to dip your toes in, to read the How to DAO book, pre-order it at howtodao.xyz, and then start with a small DAO. Don't just go sort of like dive in the deep end of starting a big DAO to start. You want to get an experience in working in DAO like ways, networked like ways instead of hierarchical ways before you do like a big project. So I just want listeners to understand the difference between empirical, actually using DAOs, and sort of the a priori stuff that we're going to talk about here. And I also think that like there's a little bit of another analogy I would use up front here is this story of Plato's cave, which is basically this idea that if you lived your whole life inside of a cave and you'd heard stories about the outside world, you'd seen them like the figures on the cave wall that describe what the outside world is like, but you've never experienced it yourself. Then when you actually get outside and you experience the real world and you get out of the cave, then it's going to be a really eye-opening experience for you, and you realize that you lived your whole life in the cave. And why is Iwaki giving all these like crazy metaphors before he talks about DAOs? Well, the reason is that we've grown up in a financial system our entire lives and never questioned it. We've been in the cave of Bretton Woods, of the US dollar, of the trad financial system. I worked at a bank in 2020, 2008. They're running on computers that were invented in the 1950s. Plato's cave, I never questioned it until I saw it. And it's the same thing with DAOs, where I've lived my entire life in a hierarchical world. And now I'm learning about networks and internet coordination that's more peer to peer and about casual coordination. My first job out of school, I had to wear a suit and it was very formal and buttoned up. And so, I guess I just want to say, like, before I actually answer your question, Dao the thing I take from that is that the Dao that can be named is not the eternal Dao. You have to experience it. And if you've been in Plato's cave your entire life, it takes a little bit of recognizing that before you step into the world of DAOs to really organize it. And even then, it's going to be a process. And to actually answer your question about Gitcoin becoming a DAO, I think that the thing that I'll say is that trying to turn a company into a DAO is like trying to turn an apple into an orange. It's they're two different forms. I mean, networks versus hierarchies, and we had to unlearn a lot of hierarchical things. And even then, we still had sort of like the muscle memory of the hierarchy that I think we went through like a wave of contributors or two before we actually figured out how to do things in more of like a DAO like way. And so it's been an iterative evolutionary process where on the governance forum on a quarterly basis, we're sharing our learnings and we're trying to learn how to trust each other in a network based way. One of the nice things about companies is that if you want to know where the company is going, you just ask the CEO, hey, what's the roadmap? Do you want to go in X direction or Y direction? You don't have that in a DAO. You have to learn how to rely on each other and form consensus in groups, which is way fucking harder because humans are programmed for hierarchy. We are programmed to have a charismatic leader that is going to be making decisions. And I think that like a great example of DAO era leadership is Vitalik Buterin, who doesn't make decisions about what happens with the Ethereum network, but he's fucking smart as shit and he provides a vision for where things go. People can disagree with him. There are EIPs that have been shot down. Like the most famous example, EIP stands for Ethereum Improvement Proposal. Vitalik proposed changing gas on Ethereum to mana because he thought that that was more of like, it has less connotations with oil and gas. And it got shot down because people were like, no, we're not fucking doing that. There's other proposals that he shot down and he's the leader. Like in a company that would never happen. So like he embodies a movement and not a company. And I think that there's a big difference between a network and a movement and a company and a hierarchy. And so I think that you have to learn how to work in these ways and you have to be iterative and you have to evolve and you have to start small. I'm on probably half a dozen Gnosis safe, Gnosis multi-sigs. So basically, in some ways, those all have distributed decision making rights. Like that's kind of like a starter DAO. Like if DAOs were vehicles and you could decide whether you want to start with like a sports car or like a tank, it's probably better to start with like a skateboard or a scooter and figure out how to have your balance. And like Gnosis Safe is a really great way to have a DAO with friends and then learn to work in that way. And then you can graduate to Moloch DAOs and compound style DAOs, and then designing your own bespoke DAOs. In a weird way, I actually think that every Gitcoin grants round is an ephemeral DAO that only lasts for 2 weeks. That's a whole nother rabbit hole that we could go down. But anyway, to answer your question, the DAO that can be named is not the eternal DAO. We've been in Plato's cave all of our life, so we have to get out of it. And even then, you have to iterate and evolve in this frontier. And the How to DAO book is kind of meant to be your guide on this journey of not only learning book reading about how to do it, also like we're gonna have digital experiences that readers of the book can join, and there's actual quests where they can do DAO like things together so that they can learn in this iterative evolutionary way. And also, I think another important thing that I'm excited about is cohorts of learning. So instead of just learning from me and you, Puncar, that would be very hierarchical if you're only learning from us. You're going to be learning from other people in your cohort about how to DAO. And so yeah, how to DAO.xyz. You can start your journey today by pre-ordering the book.
Thank you. And about the cohorts, actually, we are running already the first cohort right now, and we just like halfway through, and the cohort actually became a DAO at this point, and it's like super cool to just like observe that. So we started some like theoretical learnings, but then we got into like more practical. And the last homework was one group create the multisig, what you talk about, like the simplest DAO possible, and they done it. And the other group, which are like a little more advanced, create the DAO house, the Moloch V3 DAO. And they already starting like making proposals on their own. And the last class we had, it was already the discussion like, oh, how we can improve this governance process. It doesn't work for us that well. We couldn't coordinate well for the call, and basically what I experience a DAOs, like actually DAOs, like this type of discussion is happening there as well. They just like naturally went that direction as a class. And, you can see like DAOs are not rocket science. Like it's not, you should not be afraid of it. It's not like something like, oh, I need probably like a university degree to join a DAO, or like to start a DAO. I need like, like expert advice and like, spend tons of money on like legal fees. Maybe true, like at some points, but like at the very basics, it's a coordination tool for people to achieve, the common mission. And we have these students, 20 students in the class. Some of them never touch crypto. That was the first time they install their like crypto wallet, and they are already contributing to a DAO in 3 weeks, and it's just awesome. And we will run more cohorts after the book launch. Probably the next one will start actually after Denver, which is on the February March kind of time. So if you interested like learn more and more like practical examples and build with your cohort something, definitely check how to DAO.xyz, because there will be sign up form soon for our next cohort starting after ETH Denver. And maybe we can touch up on ETH Denver. What do you think, Kevin, as well? It's like something people should know about.
Obviously, I'm out of Colorado, and for those of you watching on video, see my Colorado haircut, standard issue, long guy hair and beard. We're gonna be at ETH Denver. I think that we've got some engagement planned with respect to the book that will include either the ability to get a copy of the book at ETH Denver, get it signed, meet up with the How to DAO community. Details, I think, are still a little bit TBD, so I can't drop specifics here, but the book launch is on January 21st, and ETH Denver starts about a month later, and so there will definitely be a book launch party that we'll be doing at ETH Denver, and we're going to do it in a DAO way, if possible. So we'll try to run the book launch party as a DAO itself.
Sounds like a plan. And like, just like, for people who never been at Denver, and you are maybe based in US, like I highly recommend, coming. You just sign up on their website. There's short application form. It's free. So this is like probably the only conference like at this size I know about where you don't need to pay to attend. Just need to apply and get approved. And if you're a builder, genuine person, I believe you will be approved. And then join us there. And we will also do Shelling Point, which is a conference, Gitcoin and other regions are doing pretty much every year, I would say. There were some gaps maybe, and How to DAO will be part of it as well. So you definitely can get hands on your copy and maybe signed by us.
Yep. Yeah, that's the plan. So really excited to hang out with people and just explore this design space together. This is actually a great segue into one of my next points, which is that I think it's actually one of the things that I've learned about DAOs. It's the kind of experience that you have to learn together. And over time, I've formed a couple of groups of people around me that are exploring design spaces for DAOs together. And we can just, if you think about it as a networked coordination problem, how do you learn about this frontier? Having friends that you trust that have complementary skill sets and networks to you is actually really important. So just a shout out to Gitcoin DAO, which is my original DAO that I've been involved in, Moloch DAO, Compound, Tally, Snapshot, Regen Hub, Greenpill.network, I think is becoming DAO-y in a lot of ways. And then the How to DAO network is going to, I think in some ways, be sort of like an onboarding funnel for all of the DAOs that we know about, because we're going to have hundreds of people per quarter that are reading the book and coming to the experience, and looking forward to showing them the latest and greatest of technology in the space. And I think this is actually like kind of a profound or like very important role that we're going to play in onboarding if we're successful. Is that one of the things I don't like about crypto is that your first experience is buying a coin and listening to an influencer who's trying to sell you a bag. And my vision for onboarding for crypto, which I would really like to scale, is that I want you to join and be given proper disclosures about you should be careful of who you trust, and don't just buy a coin because an influencer is doing it. There's not going to be any shilling of coins. It's only going to be about learning DAO toolings in the How to DAO book. And so I'm excited to provide an onboarding experience that people can trust and come in a networked way and explore the design space together. And I want to see a social immune system against like shilling develop. Like, just don't shill me before we have a relationship. That's like kind of like my golden rule. And then the other important thing that I would really like to do is like, there's actually like a little bit of a synergy with Gitcoin here. And Gitcoin, for those of you who don't know, is like a grants platform that allocates capital to things that matter. We fund what matters is our motto. And I think it'd be really cool if we could use the How to DAO cohorts in order to run more quadratic funding rounds and get people as part of their experience earning crypto instead of just buying a bag. Could be their first relationship with it. So TLDR, we can do more together. The future of internet coordination, I think, is multiplayer, and DAOs are a multiplayer version of crypto. So excited to bring this to a new generation of people who hopefully will see the value of DAOs. And I think that like one of the really fun parts of writing this book is I've written like 4 or 5 books for people deep in the industry, the on-chain capital allocation book, the GreenPilled Book, and I'm really proud of that work. But like, this is the first one where we've really hammered out how the F do we explain this stuff to people who are not already deep down the rabbit hole. And Penguin Random House has been a great partner for us in figuring out how the hell to explain this to people who don't wake up and think about decentralization. They're probably more concerned with their social life and their financial life and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I think that how do we explain DAOs to normies? Because if How to DAO is successful, if you guys go pre-order the book and we climb that bestseller list, eventually we're going to spill out into the mainstream. What is the argument for DAOs that we're bringing to everyday people, you think?
Well, I think we are answering that question in the book, so we should not answer it here. But in general, like I'm just like what I repeated, like it's not rocket science, and we are just bringing some new primitives which can be very useful. And like just on recent discussion, the like Joe Rogan podcast with Mark Andreessen, like about the banking of founders. Like one of the advantage of DAOs, it's like you own your financial system kind of thing. Like if you open multisig, it's not like opening bank account because bank account is owned by the bank. You just like have access to it. If you open multisig, you are the owner of the multisig. Nobody can take it from you. You can lose access to it, then nobody can help you. But the good thing is like we are creating more sovereign kind of organizations where, you can be censorship resistant. And in some countries, it's super important actually to be that way. And if you are also like, financially sovereign in a sense, like you cannot be the bank or like the transaction cannot be lost because someone else did mistake. It's like on you. I like the feeling of it that like we actually own our own things. It's just fun to do things together with the community, with the team of people which has the same vision. And it's all about coordination, and DAOs are like one of the best tools how we can coordinate online digitally, but also with some of the pockets we have RL. And I think like, Greenpill, it's a good example. It's DAO now. And it's like in every city or like it's in multiple cities. They have the pockets, they meet RL, but then they coordinate as a big group basically online, and it works pretty well for them. So yeah, so many examples of like successful DAOs these days, and we just iterate on it. And this is just the beginning. And if you kind of jump on this train, like you are very early. So it's also some of the upside from in just being more innovative than the other organizations, so we can outpace them. That's how I feel about it. What do you think, Kevin? Like, what's the biggest value for you? You would like kind of how you would shill DAOs?
Yeah, it's funny because we wrote this book called How to DAO, and in some sense, I think that you have to start with why DAOs before you talk about how to DAO. And for me, the answer is that there's a world of opportunity on the internet. It's always evolving. And if you're a young person in the world today, there might not be a lot of opportunity in your local area, financially, socially, things that make you feel like your truest self. And so for me, DAOs, How to DAO, the subtitle is Mastering the Future of Internet Coordination. The reason you want to master the future of internet coordination is because there's a world of abundance out there in the internet. And I really love what Bankless has done. Bankless, actually, it's fun to talk about them here because they actually helped me start the Greenpill podcast. David and Ryan, thank you for your support. And the thing that I want to say is that they have this analogy of going west. Our forefathers in the 1800s went west, at least in America. This is like a mythologized part of American history, but basically you could go west in order to find land and resources and to be more sovereign on the frontier. And I think the generations before us have always found opportunity in the frontier. There's obviously the westward journey that happened in the Americas, where if you were super early, you're going west just on foot through the bush, through the mountains. Dirt roads begin to happen, and then oxen start to go across. And an Oregon Trail is one of my favorite games back in the day. And then eventually you have a railroad where people in mass can go west without the inconveniences of walking or being on oxen. And I kind of feel like successive generations have had opportunities in the frontier. That's the 1800s example. Another example that I think I've seen is like baby boomers just getting like really rich off of the post World War II boom that we had in America. Housing prices, like at least where I live in Colorado, in Erie, Colorado, you just like if you're a baby boomer, you just bought a house for like $5,000 in 1970, and now it's $1 million house. Like it's you just fell ass backwards into like opportunity. And we don't have our generation doesn't have that opportunity. And for me, DAOs are an opportunity in the internet. The internet is the frontier. It's not a physical frontier anymore. It's a psychological and digital frontier. And so for me, why DAO is because there's a frontier and there's lots of riches and self-actualization in that frontier for the people who can be sovereign enough to make the risk and to go out there and do it. That's why DAOs for me. It's about being in the frontier, and it's about new opportunity for a younger generation. And that's what I hope to pay forward the opportunities that I've had to thousands of people. That's why DAO before you get into how to DAO.
Yeah, that was the question, like why people should even care about DAOs.
Okay.
And I
I
think
eventually found my way back to it.
exactly.
Sometimes, but there's a lesson in there, and that's that sometimes in the space we have to meander before we come back to what we were actually looking for. But I'm very thankful to you, Punkar, for being my co-author, my ride or die co-author on this, navigating the book publishing industry, which is probably one of the older industries that I'm aware of, and something super new like the frontier has been a real journey. And I'm thankful to you and also Howard and Noah and everyone else at Penguin Random House for making this book a possibility. And if you want to support the book and you want to support the mainstreaming of DAOs, go to howtodao.xyz and pre-order the book. And also join one of the learning cohorts. We'd love to have Green Pill members as listeners, mentors for the book. And then we've got a Telegram Discord set up, which I think will start becoming active soon. So say hi in the Telegram and Discord and join us on the frontier, creating prosperity for the next generation. Anything else to say as we're wrapping up, Punkar?
I second that, and I'm also super thankful. We had this opportunity to work together on this book. It was a fun journey. Learned tons about the publishing, and we probably need to do another episode, just like what is the stories about, like working with big publisher, which is like not very agile industry and what we are used to. But yeah, I'm very thankful for also everyone who contributed to the book. And we will have now, a couple podcast sessions with those people who contributed their stories, because the book is basically also selection of stories of successful contributors and DAO founders. We will be probably another 10 minutes here if I name everyone, but like there will be podcast episode which each of them telling their story again. And I'm super thankful that they share it with us and, enable us to actually put it in the book. So it was a community basically driven book in a sense, with like the last mile being the publisher to get it into hands of like everyone out there. And hopefully that will, spark the movement of DAOs, and we will get more people in it. And for that, we need your help. So go to howtodao.xyz and pre-order the book. So we are the bestseller, and then more DAOs are popping up, and everyone has this new opportunity from the internet.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, you can pre-order the book at howtodao.xyz. And we will be running, I think it's between 5 and 10 episodes about how to DAO on the Greenpill podcast. It's going to be a continuation of the guest seasons that we've been doing thus far. If you're listening this far, hopefully you've also listened to the guest seasons we did on retro rounds with Sejal and Lau. And then also Sav did a season about grants and grants farmers. And this will be our next guest season. And I'm going to be guest co-hosting part of the season. It's weird to be a guest co-host on your own podcast, but whatever. You're going to be doing some episodes. I'm going to be doing some episodes. And we're going to do, I think, one or two at least together. And it'll be in service of building the How to DAO movement, and then also educating people about DAOs will be the next season. So I am here for it. Anything else to say that we missed? Anything I didn't ask you want to say? That's my standard Green Pill question.
I don't know. Did we say that you can pre-order the book now at how to DAO.xyz? Not sure about that. And like we are also running a campaign with Tally and Common, so you can actually get 2 books for price of 1 now. So like you should definitely check it out. And yeah, and I think we said everything apart from that.
All right. Well, Pungar, thanks for being my ride or die. If you're listening and you're listening to episode 210 of the Green Pill podcast, I don't know if we're exactly at 210, but we're about there. Thank you for being my ride or die for this movement, and really looking forward to building a future of more internet coordination and prosperity together. So thanks again to everyone. Pre-order the book at howtodao.xyz, and we will see you soon.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Kevin.
Alrighty, we just heard from Puncar. I'm excited about how to DAO because I think that we can lead people to more prosperity in the frontier that is the internet. We can teach them more about sovereignty and succeeding in internet coordination in the 21st century. How to DAO can be a vehicle for doing that. Thanks for listening to the GreenPilled.network podcast. Again, we are building a coordination, a network society of thousands of hackers, dreamers, and doers using crypto to bring positive sum digital systems to the world. Like Puncar, like thousands of people who are working on DAOs out there. If you value our work, you can collect this episode. Go to pods.media/greenpill to collect this episode today. And while you're here, might as well make an offering to our algorithmic overlords. Please subscribe, rate, and review. If you gratify us with likes and shares, that will really help our AI overlords know about Greenpill, how to DAO, and all the great work we're doing out here. Peace and love. I will see you next time. Bye.